Welcome to aminacademy.com. In History of Muslim World, let us discuss about history of Abraham. In Islam, the Prophet Abraham, that is called Ibrahim, lived around 2000 BCE. Abraham, around 2000 BCE, Abraham is considered a link in the chain of Islamic prophets that begins with Adam and ends with Muhammad. He is also an ancestor of the Israelites and Ismailites, Arabs. Here are some other things to know about Abraham in Islam, about the faith. Muslims believe that Abraham was a model of faith and obedience and that he fulfilled all the trials and commandments set for him by God. The story of Abraham's sacrifice is an example of his unwavering faith in Allah and continues to inspire Muslims today. Muslims believe that Abraham and his son Ismail built a Kaaba in Mecca. Father of the prophets. Many consider Abraham to be the father of the prophets, and some of them the most prominent prophets in the Quran, Torah, and Bible are descendant from him. Muslims believe that Abraham is the father of both the Arab and Jewish people through his son Ishaq and Ismail. Prophet Ibrahim, known as Prophet Abraham in the Hebrew Bible, is recognized as a prophet and messenger in Islam of Allah. Abraham plays a prominent role as an example of faith in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And Muslims believe Abraham fulfilled all the commandments and trials wherein God nurtured him throughout his lifetime. As a result of his unwavering faith in God, Abraham was promised by God to be a leader to all the nations of the world. The Quran extols Abraham as a model, an exemplar, obedient, and not an idolater. In this sense, Abraham has been described as representing primordial man in universal surrender to the divine reality before its fragmentation into religious separated from each other by differences in form. The Islamic holiday Eid al-Adha is celebrated in memory of the bravery of Abraham, and Muslims performs the pilgrimage to pay homage at the Kaaba in the Hijazi city of Mecca, which they believe Abraham had set up and reformed. Muslims believe that the Prophet Abraham becomes the leader of the righteous in his time, and that it was through him that people of both the Arabian Peninsula, Adnanites in particular, and Israel came. Abraham, in the belief of Islam, was instrumental in cleansing the world of idolatry at that time. Paganism was cleared out by Abraham in both Arabia and Canaan. He spiritually purified both places as well as physically sanctifying the houses of worship. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and his sacrifice. The story of Prophet Ibrahim and his sacrifice begins with his journey to Allah. Ibrahim was born in Babylon, present-day Iraq. Ibrahim's community practiced paganism and the worship of idols, and his father was a principal sculptor and crafter of idols. With little regard for the idols throughout his childhood, Ibrahim eventually grew to disbeliefs in the worship of the idols in his community entirely. He questioned how idols made from wood and stone, crafted by human beings like his father, could be the gods of the people, providing no benefit or harm. Ibrahim salam continued to reflect, observing the sky and the natural world around him. Eventually, he submitted in his heart to the Lord of the universe, who had decided could be the only creator of this incredible world. This act of submission was the first of many that Ibrahim would make with his newfound conviction in the one Lord of the universe, inspired by Allah to call the people to the truth in his community. Ibrahim alayhis salam faced many tribulations as a result, including being thrown into a raging fire by his own father. Still, throughout all of these tests, Ibrahim never wavered from his faith and submission to Allah, the only one God. After leaving the fire unsathed, many were amazed at the miracle but continued to doubt. Years later, Ibrahim alayhis salam, who was established in his mission, and his family, who also faced trials of their own in the way of their devotion to Allah, had a dream that Allah had instructed him to sacrifice his only son Ismail. Difficult as it was, Ibrahim yet again submitted to the will of Allah, recognizing this as a test of his faith in this phase of his prophethood. He asked Ismail to travel with him to Mount Arafat to perform the sacrifice. Ibrahim alayhis salam told his son Ismail of his dream, and Ismail, who later became a prophet himself, had a equally unwavering faith in Allah and submitted himself. Just as Ibrahim was about to perform the sacrifice, Allah intervened, saying, "O Ibrahim, you have fulfilled the vision and now you will be rewarded." Allah sent a ram to Ibrahim to be sacrificed instead of Ismail. The Quranic verse says, "And we ransomed him with a great sacrifice." Prophet Ibrahim's sacrifice is something that Muslims remember every Eid al-Adha during the holy month of Dhul Hijjah, when Muslims from all over the world offer an animal, usually goat, sheep, cow, or camel, for the sake of Allah. By giving Qurbani, we follow the same footsteps of Prophet Ibrahim and remember his devotion to Allah, with an additional obligation to the poor. Performing the sacrifice for the sake of Allah requires Muslims to reflect and approach the sacrifice with sincere intention like Ibrahim. According to the majority of the scholars, it is recommended to refrain from cutting the hair, nail, or skin, and according to the with this sacred act of sacrifice, Muslims reflect on the many significant messages of this story and beyond, including our duty to those who are struggling, the sanctity of Allah, Allah's creation and world around us. In Islam, the history of Abraham is central to the faith and includes the following events. Abraham's faith. Abraham is considered a model of faith and obedience to God and is described as the first monotheist in a world where monotheism was lost. Adam's sacrifice. In one story, Abraham is tested by being thrown into a fire by idolaters Allah commands the fire to remain cool and not harm Abraham, and Abraham remains steadfast in his faith. Abraham and his son Ismail built the Kaaba in Mecca. Every mosque is a symbol of this. Abraham is a link in the chain of Islamic prophets that begins with Adam and ends with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abraham's role as a leader. God promised Abraham that he would be a leader to all the nations of the world because of his unwavering faith. Abraham's status as our father Abraham. Muslims refer to Abraham as Abuna Ibrahim, which means our father Abraham. Abraham is a common figure in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and is considered the father of the prophets. So far, we discussed about the prophet Adam and his life history. We have done. Please subscribe our YouTube channel.